Hello, everybody. Mr.FrightNight here. Today's story is about the serial killer, Ed Kemper. Kemper was born on December 18th, 1948, in Burbank, California, the middle child of E. and Clarnell Kemper. After his parents divorced in 1957, he moved with his mother and two sisters to Montana. Kemper had a difficult relationship with his alcoholic mother. He blamed all his problems on her. At the age of 10, his mother forced him to live in a basement, away from her and his two sisters, fearing that he might harm them someday. Now, Ed Kemper's troubles began to emerge early. He had dark fantasies, dreaming about killing his mother. Now, his sisters had dolls, but he cut the heads off. His first killing, at the age of 10, he buried one of the family's cats alive. At the age of 13, he slaughtered the other cat with a knife. After that, he went to live with his father, but it didn't last. After a couple of months, he ended up living with his mother again, who decided to send the troubled teenager to live with his grandparents in Fort Worth, California. But Kemper hated living with his grandparents on a farm. At the age of 14, his grandfather gave him a rifle for his birthday, but he got it quickly taken away. He was caught killing birds and small animals with it. Now, on August 27th, 1964, he shot his grandmother in the kitchen after an argument. When his grandfather came home, he shot him in his car. After that, he called his mother and told her what happened. She told him to call the police. For his crimes, Kemper was handed over to the California Youth Authority. After testing, it was determined he had a very high IQ. It was also found that he suffered from paranoia schizophrenia. Eventually, he was sent to go to the state hospital for the mentally ill. In 1969, he was released at the age of 21, but he was not allowed to live with his mother. After time, he attended community college and began working with the Department of Transportation in 1971. Kemper had applied to become a state trooper, but he was rejected due to his size. He was 6 foot 9 inches tall and weighed 300 pounds. So Kemper turned his mind towards other pursuits. He noticed a large number of young women hitchhiking in the area. At first, he picked them up and brought them to where they were going, but after a while, Kemper decided not to let them go. One day, he picked up two women from the nearby college. Shortly after that, the families of the two girls reported them missing. It wasn't until August 15th when a female head was found in the woods near Santa Cruz, California. It was later identified as one of the girls he picked up hitchhiking. He later explained that he stabbed and strangled his victim and cut her head off and brought the remains to his apartment. Now, later that year, September 14th, 1972, Kemper picked up a 15-year-old who decided to hitchhike because she didn't want to wait for the bus, and she would meet the same fate as the other two victims. In 1973, Kemper continued to murder. Now, he picked up another female hitchhiker where he shot her and dismembered her body and threw her parts in the ocean. But this time, he buried her head in his mother's backyard. Now, on February 5th, 1973, he drove to the nearby college where two girls were hitchhiking. He picked them up and eventually shot them in the head, and again decapitated them and dismembered their bodies and threw them in the nearby woods. Now, in 1973, Kemper committed what would be his last two murders. First was his mother. He killed her with a hammer, then cut in her throat. And just like the other victims, he cut her head off. Shortly after that, he called his mother's friend and invited her to the house. As soon as she arrived, Kemper strangled her and hid her body in a closet. Kemper left the area the next day and began driving east until he reached Colorado, where he called the police on April 23rd to confess the killings. The trial began on October 1973. He was found guilty of all charges in November. When the judge asked Kemper what his punishment should be, he replied that he should be tortured to death. Now, Kemper is known as the co-ed killer and still alive at the age of 73.